Ladies and gents, welcome to FSTV episode number 17. This week, me and Ryan spoke about quite a sensitive issue, something that's never actually been publicly addressed before. Essentially, there's a group of retailers in the Stratford upon Avon business community that have levelled quite a lot of criticism towards the Waterside Market and in particular Feast Street. But essentially the whole market has been criticised. So we kind of dive deep into why that is, how it's happened, and exactly all of those details, and to really give an actual public response to the criticism. So I'm not going to give away too much now. I'm going to let Ryan do the talking. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the show. Quick word from our sponsors. FSTV is brought to you by Bullingham Creative. Now, my name's James. I run Bullingham Creative and we are a full-service content production agency. That means that we produce all of the social media strategy. We produce all the videos and all the photography that you see on Feast Street's social media channels. We run the whole thing from concept to delivery onto his social media channels. We started working with Feast Street right at the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020. And since then, and during the pandemic, Ryan's business grew 300%. A large part of that is down to the leads and the traffic that we were driving to Ryan's website and to all of his social media channels through effective visual media production. If you want to check out any of our work, bullinghamcreative.com. But for now, there should be a link in the show notes. Give that a little click, have a little look for our work and see what we can do for your business. Ryan, afternoon, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Thank you. Pretty good. I'm looking forward to this one, to be honest. There's so I wanted to talk about Stratford today. You've been trading in Stratford upon Avon for what, 11 years now?
11 years from March 2023. Yeah, so a few months away from 11 years. Yeah.
Wow, so that's a long time. But there's been a group of retailers that have been levelling some criticism towards you. Tell us a little bit about the background of that and how that's come to be. But maybe first, before you do that, let's talk a little bit about exactly what Feast Street is and its relation to Stratford upon Avon.
Yeah, so, and I think the reason why I'd like to do that is because, there's been a lot of talk about what Feast Street are and people's opinions by certain retailers and actually general public, because they're responding to posts of from these retailers, but without really ever hearing any reaction. I mean, just for the record, this criticism has come of us and our business in Stratford for pretty much the full decade, and we've never once responded ever to any of it. And so we just, not that this is a response to it, but if anybody's ever interested and they want to get a bit more information, this would be the perfect place for them to hear it today. So because people don't really understand our model, I'll start with that. And so Feast Street is a really, really small independent business and always has been. And although we're bigger now, we still are a small independent business. My business was started by myself and my wife when we were in our early 20s, selling sausages, locally farmed quality sausages on a market. We've talked about this before. As the business developed over a period of 17 years, we had independents. There was the street food boom came in. We had a number of independents out there that were kind of struggling commercially and were kind of trying to find their feet. But fortunately, because we were to the party quite early with the whole street food thing, we were a few years before the boom. I had a good idea of the industry, so because of that, I could see the potential in these independents. We've had some of them on, with Carib Kitchen are quite new to us, but, they are one. Adam Patterson been with us several years. He's from Stratford. He's a Stratford independent. He'd been on, obviously, the podcast already. You can see him on one of the earlier podcasts. These are independents, especially Adam was already in business and he was operating, from Stratford. He was operating a trailer. It's, a lot of these independents have come along kind of wanting to work with us, looking for guidance, trying to get onto the bigger shows and so on and so forth. And actually it made sense for us to move in a direction where we were a collective of independents rather than just being Feast Street on our own. So we started to incorporate independent businesses within Fee Street's umbrella. So when you see Fee Street and you see them on any show, Stratford or anywhere else, they're actually built of a collection of independents in partnership with me.
And so when you say you incorporated them into your business,
Yeah.
what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that you gave them some equipment? Does it mean branding? Does it mean marketing? What exactly did you what did the partnership involve?
So it helped me to scale the business because certain individuals made investments into the business. So for example, Adam, he made an investment into our business. He was looking to diversify his business. Now, during COVID, Adam was trying to sell donuts from his drive and actually had great support. Some of the local councillors visited him, and he was in the newspaper, and people were like saying, look, it's an independent Stratford business, really struggling. The event market is closed, and could you please go to his drive and support? So when people were allowed out, they did that, and it was all featured in the Stratford Herald and so on and so forth. And once that kind of started to clear and he started to think, right, I need to move forward, I needed a new direction, Adam managed to benefit from some funding. So because of that, he used that funding, invested into us. It helped us because it gave us an ability to take on more work. We were fortunately winning a lot of work. And we also got a fantastic individual who's really passionate about his business, who's really passionate about the job. And so we really got a win-win. We got, the ability to take on more work. And how that worked was Adam sold his trailer and he invested into our model, which is obviously more of a marquee based business, but he incorporated himself into our brands. So he basically took a range of our brands. He got his own truck, he got his own equipment, everything is his, takes all of the money into his own bank through his own card machines. And we work that basically on a profit share basis. That gave Adam an immediate platform for income through Stratford upon Avon, through multiple events all round. And so when you see us trading, whether it's in Stratford or anywhere else, it is Adam and a group of independents as well as me benefiting from that. I'm also an independent. But because we've managed to work as a collective and as a group, sometimes people's opinions are that we're this kind of giant force that just comes along and takes over, and that's just not how it is. It might be well structured, it might be professional, it might be quality, and we might have great marketing thanks to you, and we might have a depot, bricks and mortar premises in which we trade from and we move, take our goods from, prepare our food from. We might have an accounts manager, we might have quite a nice group of a professional structure, but it is only possible by a group of independent people working together as a collective to be able to have a structure that larger companies have. And that's why sometimes people are of the opinion we are a much larger single company than what we are, but we're not. We're a group of independents working together.
Interesting. Now that criticism has come from a group of retailers. Why do you think, why are they criticising you?
The biggest issue that they have with it is they don't believe that it benefits Stratford upon Avon. They believe that by us coming along, albeit we've been there for a decade, and albeit some of the people making criticism came after I've been trading there, because they've moved into a bricks and mortar premises, they've believed that it gives them more rights than somebody that's working from a pop-up marquee. Now, that pop-up marquee is working on a council market that is fully licensed, that has all the relevant permissions, that has all the relevant licenses. The only difference is they're in a bricks and mortar premises, these aren't. Now, they're also of the opinion that we don't pay business rates, we don't pay rent, we don't pay national insurance, and we don't pay any of the usual taxes or costs, VAT or any of those. Again, I'm not really sure where they got that information from, because I don't really know any businesses that can really operate like that. The market is fully licensed and it has business rates attributed to it. Those business rates are not directly attributed to each individual business, because you can't really do that because they change. But it is attributed to the market operator who has the license and the agreement with the local authority to run the market. The local authority charge the operator a license, a rental, which is a quarterly rental that they must pay. They also charge them business
to the
rates.
council.
Yeah, so the council to the council. The council charge the operator, who must pay that rent. They obviously then let out all of the space and they make a profit by letting it for more than what they pay. Yeah. They also have to pay business rates, and that business rates, instead of us getting a rateable value individually or a rates bill individually. The operator gets the rates bill because it's their site and their contract, and then the cost of that is then spread amongst those traders and is incorporated into your rental charge. So because of that, the overall market is rated and is chargeable, and we all pay towards it. So there isn't really any difference apart from we're not an individually rated business per trader. We're an overall market that is basically charged. And so we all have to pay it. So business rates we do pay, rent we do pay. And actually, because, let's talk about Waterside specifically, because these particular individuals don't seem to have an issue with the Rother Street market. They have an issue with the Waterside market, and they believe the location isn't right for it. But for the record, that Waterside market has been there 25 years. Long before most of the people complaining ever came along. So in one sense, it's kind of a strange argument, really, because if it was new, you could kind of understand them going, well, hang on, this doesn't work. I liked it before. But most of them won't remember what it was like before, or if they do, it was really probably long before they had stores or shops in Stratford. So it's a slightly strange argument. So let's talk about that particular one. So the retail space that we pay as a collective there is considerable, because we only get really 5 hours of trading per week on that site. And, as a collective, we'll pay, circa £40,000 plus in rent for that particular site for 5 hours for around about 40 weeks of the year.
So not even every week of the year, not every day of the week?
No, one day for about 5 hours for about 40 of the weeks. So if you actually times that by the ability to be able to trade 7 days a week and 360 days a year, a couple off for Christmas and everything else, like most retail stores, I would say that we probably the highest rent paying retail space in the entire of Stratford, including some of the superstores like Marks and Spencer's.
Wow.
Yeah. But unfortunately, people don't view it like that. They just view it that you've just come along, you don't pay anything, and take all the business off everyone. It's just unfortunately not the case.
Do any of them know that? Is that information out there?
Well, obviously our rental information is private. It's not something I've discussed. I'm just putting it out there so people can really get an understanding of what we're talking about. So there's a group of us operating on Stratford, and as a collective of independents, and actually as a collective of independents under the Fee Street bracket, that's what we pay.
Do you think that might change their opinions somewhat?
I think it depends on the individual, because there's a number of individuals out there that aren't really interested in the opinions because, they are just supporting a cause that, might be belong to a friend or, a colleague or something else. But I think those who are genuinely interested to know, well, let's hear the argument on both sides here, because we have never heard these guys speak in over a decade. The reality of the situation is that we are a group of independent people, all with families. We have lots of people that also work for us. And not quite a lot of our employees that work for the collective, are things like single parents, people like single parents, who can't work midweek because they have to do the school run, or, they've got children they need to look after. They get help on a weekend from like grandparents and so on and so forth. So they're able to then go out and work, and it's really important to them. We've got, I've got one particular lady. I won't name her because I haven't asked her, but she's downstairs working right now. Right, she does a couple of hours in the week between the school hours, and then she's able then to come into Stratford, and she's been doing that for around about 8 or 9 years. And so for a group of individuals to come along for no other good reason other than them say, I don't think it's good for business. I don't like the fact that this is taking money out of my pocket. So what I'm going to do is drive an actual official campaign where they've created a retail action group trying to encourage local authority to restrict the trading ability of a group of, not just our collective, the entire market, which affects hundreds of people across the families and everything else, simply because they feel like it's not a benefit to them financially. Quite frankly, it's horrendous, and it's nothing short of shocking.
Yeah, it's extremely selfish, isn't it?
It's extremely selfish, and the reality of it is, you will never ever hear our company or anybody that works with us ever wishing that on anybody else. And it's one of the reasons why we do what we do. You know, we've sat on this podcast, we've talked hours and hours and hours of free information for nothing more than to support independent businesses who we've never met, who work in the same industry as us, on several occasions or on the same events as us, improving their ability to earn money.
Which would directly take money out of your pocket.
Which would directly compete with us. I have worked on events where people have come up to me and gone, we listened to your podcast, thanks so much for the advice, and they're trading next door to me.
Yeah.
There was, I traded on Stone Dead Festival. You know, you've been once before.
Yeah.
And as we were setting it up, like I say, I don't normally go to the events anymore. I'm quite office based. But I went and we were very busy, so it was bank holiday weekend. I went and did it, and the guy setting up next to me came straight over and said, oh, Ryan, we watched your podcast. It's been really helpful. We changed this and this, and showed me all the changes that they'd made. They were next door to me. And you know what? I loved it. I never even considered the fact that, oh God, why did I help these people? Now I've got to trade next to them. I just thought, brilliant. I hope they absolutely smash it this weekend and we all make loads of money, because that is our approach to business. Yeah. And so I just find it so alien for a company like ours, right, to witness a group of individuals just doing everything possible to restrict the ability to earn a living from people who have absolute rights to do what they're doing. And I think part of the argument that the people are putting across here, which is flawed, is, you know, they come in and they take a business, and not only are they operating on the weekend, but occasionally there's some special events on, and they're on there as well, because the market is on the special events also. But actually, if you look at the trading days and you say, well, they only got 2 or 3 days of trading on a week, where everybody else can trade up to 7 if they want, but you can't, because you have to trade when the market is licensed to trade. So you don't get to make the decision about when you're allowed to open.
Yeah.
So when those additional days come, whether it be a Christmas market or maybe a food festival where you're allowed to go on in Stratford, you're just getting those few extra days, which are making up for the other days that you aren't able to trade. And, you know, the counter argument, if there was someone here with us today, would be, yeah, but we have bricks and mortar, we have higher costs. But it's just simply not true. You know, I can guarantee you the costs that we have as a collective with our depot, you know, and all of the additional costs of our bricks and mortar, the transport.
Yeah.
And we have to pay twice, because we've got a premises here that's business rated. Yeah. Now, we have got premises here that we have to pay rent on. You know, we have got all of the usual costs like PAYE, NI, you know, all of our taxes, all of those are still attributed to us. There's no difference to us and, you know, a bricks and mortar business. I've had loads of bricks and mortar businesses. I still have one. It just doesn't happen to directly trade from here. It operates from here. It just happens to have satellite pop-ups that it trades from. It's no different.
Yeah.
So the rights are no different, because we pay rent to be here, and then we pay rent to be there, or anywhere else we do.
You're paying twice.
We pay twice, yes. So ultimately, if you've got a shop, yes, I understand that those costs are there, and I understand those costs are all year round. But so am I. You know, I can't phone my landlord up for this place and say, oh, by the way, it's January, I'm not trading, so, you know, I'll see you in March, I'll pay you then. You'll just go, it's not my problem. Yeah. You've got to pay all year round. So all year round, I'm paying those costs. And so, you know, the arguments are very flawed. And so I don't really understand a lot of those arguments. I mean, when, you know, when they're getting those special event days, it is really kind of just giving those few extra days because they're not able to trade 7 days a week.
What I find especially bizarre as well is that during those special events, Stratford will be miles busier than usual, because it's bringing in people into the town specifically for a day out to see the market.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh, I'll tell you what, while we're here, let's have a look up the road, let's go and, I don't know, I need something from Boots. But on the way there, they go, I'll tell you what, should we pop into that cafe and have a coffee?
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we go and have a meal in that restaurant?
Yeah.
Or I'll tell you what, should we stay for tea?
Yeah, and funnily enough, I was looking on the Stratford upon Avon forum at some of the posts that certain individuals had posted about the other day regarding this ongoing argument, because they're very open and vocal about it on the Stratford upon Avon forum. And I was reading the comments, and there was a number of people commenting saying, oh, this is terrible, you know, the retail bricks and mortar businesses should, you know, get the priority on this. I don't really understand why. Shouldn't everybody get the priority on that? Shouldn't it just be, are you legal? Have you got a right to be there? Yes, you have. Okay, cool. Then we're just going to have to compete because that's
life.
That's life, yeah. But there was a few people saying, oh, it's terrible, because they didn't really understand the argument. There was a few people that are attributed to the same group, so they're obviously saying that argument. And then there was actually some real normal general public in there that were going, but I don't really agree with you. I actually come into Stratford for the markets, and I always shop in the shops while I'm there. I do both. But actually, I don't agree with what you're saying. One lady said, me and everyone I know loves the market, and we go there for the market. But while we're there, we do my shopping in the shops as well. It's a mix of both. And actually, there has been millions of pounds of retail research that has gone into high streets because of the high street crisis. Millions of pounds. This isn't just a few people who have got shops going, this is what my opinion is, which is fine, and it's total respect the opinion, but it's not millions of pounds of detailed research. And those that have spent millions of pounds of and detailed research have, pushed all of that information through people like the business advisory groups and, consultancies. And they've come out saying markets by far help high streets because you can't buy that online. You need something atmospheric to go and enjoy. You need something to anchor town centres. We've talked about this. We're actively talking to numerous people about projects like this, where they're coming to us and saying, "Look, we're creating X, Y, and Z." I won't say any more than that, but part of it's going to be street food. And it's going to be, street food, cocktail bars, coffee, and it's the drive footfall. We've had numerous conversations with shopping centres wanting food courts installing for them, and it's because they need something to drive footfall. They're all going down that road.
Yeah, you need something to separate the retail really, because people could, if you can just buy it off the internet, people will just buy it off the internet because it's more convenient. But what you can't buy off the internet is, like you said, atmosphere. Yeah. It's going around and enjoying yourself with your family and getting some street food and enjoying some music and watching a sporting event there. Yeah. You can't like that's why those spaces are asking for those things, because they need to separate retail, because retail is changing drastically.
Yeah. And I mean, the reality of the situation is, the argument is they don't drive any footfall. That is the argument, from this group. But it's just not founded with any information or no evidence. And the reality of that is, I'm going to give you an example. Stratford-upon-Avon's Christmas fair is coming next week, right? Last year, it did somewhere between 100 and 200,000 visitors. I can guarantee you Stratford doesn't have that on an average weekend in December. It just doesn't at all. It also, so the special events that are on there and the market days have footfall counters, right? Now, okay, you can't directly attribute that footfall to them because it's not tickets. So I agree with that argument. But you can see a considerable increase in footfall, specifically on the days when those events are on that are partly a market. It's a bit coincidental.
It's not rocket science, is it?
It's pretty coincidental that exactly those days. There might not be an event on for 2 months. Yeah. And the day that there is, the footfall's dramatically increased. But no, you can't directly attribute that to the event. But I would say there's a good chance it's possibly got something to do with that. And so, a lot of the arguments are silly, to be quite frank. And I think the fact that there's a huge effort here to get political support to try and restrict the trade of dozens and dozens of independent businesses, not just our collective. I'm talking the whole market, and some of the stuff that's been said about those traders is nothing less than awful, to be quite honest. They've been described as selling tat, and the fact of the matter is, Stratford-upon-Avon's markets are award-winning. They are flagships of some of the best in the country. You can walk down Waterside Market and see, silver jewellery that's been made out of reused silver cutlery, fantastic quality. That particular trader won Young Trader of the Year. She's a small, independent, young, early 20s trader, right, who has actually got disabilities. And she won with the National Market Traders Federation final. She won Youth Trader of the Year. Right, she makes this stuff by hand. It is amazing, and it's out of it's real silver, but it's made out of used cutlery. So it's all very, it's using kind of used products.
It's recycling.
It's recycling essentially, yeah. So and it's amazing. The quality she produces of this stuff is amazing.
I've bought a couple of pieces. I'm not sure if it's from her, but because there's a couple of different jewelry traders.
Yeah.
I've bought a couple of pieces from my girlfriend going down that market.
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of it is handmade. Not all of it, right? No one's trying to say this is a maker's market, but there's a huge amount of stuff.
It's not a million miles off, though.
It's not a million miles off, no. There's a fantastic artist. I won't mention her name either because I haven't spoken to her about it, but I love her work, right? She spends all week painting this stuff by hand.
Presumably in a studio that she pays rent on.
Yes, it's a studio she pays rent on. Right, it's not her home.
Yeah, it's a bit of a theme here.
Yeah. There's a bit of a theme. Yeah, I mean, look, some traders do work from home, right?
Yeah.
But in all fairness, that's their choice to keep their costs down. Yeah. Everybody has their own techniques and their own systems on how they run their business, right? Some people just want to run it from a garage. Some people drop ship, right? Yeah. They don't own a product ever. They just work from a laptop and they make millions of pounds drop shipping, right? Good for them, right? But it doesn't mean they've got any less rights than anybody else because they don't have a building full of the products. It's just good business. So this particular artist, she paints all and she sells her paintings. Some of them are hundreds of pounds, right? People buy them because the quality is phenomenal, right? You don't get this stuff, right, from, the type of market they're referring to. So you got two types of market. You've got some markets that are very kind of budget based. They are looking for cheap products, right? And there's nothing wrong with them either, right? And certain people, right, that need to get a bargain will go to those shops, and actually it's a lifeline for a lot of people.
But we've spoken about this before, and those type of markets are the ones that aren't doing very well and that are disappearing.
Yeah.
So the markets that do well are the ones that are more artisan and that are much more upmarket.
That's right.
So it doesn't make sense to make the argument that this tatty market is taking business away from retailers, because those kind of markets are decreasing. They're doing worse and they're disappearing. With good reason.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, one of the things that has been mentioned a lot is that this particular group of individuals, they do contradict themselves hugely. So there's an argument that the market doesn't attract any footfall, but they have. Would prefer to see the market up in Rother Street, which is near to quite a few of their businesses. But because then it would help to pull the footfall up there, but the market doesn't attract any footfall. That has been the argument on one occasion. It probably needs to be a bit more better thought out. But there's a lot of contradiction. The market's full of tat, but it's taken all our business away. It's like, well,
it's either one or the other.
It's one or the other, yeah. So there's a huge contradiction, and I think the overall reality of it is, if I'm honest, we've always had kind of criticism and people not wishing we were there for over a decade. Like I say, we've had people open a business and then complain about us, and then close the business, and then still complain about us. And we're still there, and we're carrying on doing what we're doing. We were there before, we were there after, and you know what? I kind of get used to it. What's happened recently is so much more extreme that I think that's why we decided to do this podcast, to give something in the public realm. I'm not going to go and blast my social media with all of this ranting and everything else. That's just not how we work. That's why we've never spoke. And there's been some, I won't go into detail, but there's been some really underhanded, awful stuff going on. But we have just stayed professional. We've continued to maintain that level of professionalism that we always maintain. And I just find it now at this level that it's reached, with no good reason other than I'll be better off without these people around, to try and restrict hundreds of people, dozens of traders, which affects hundreds of people, families and people trying to support one another in a really difficult time. To try and restrict that just to better yourself is absolutely shocking.
It's a scarcity mentality, isn't it? It's the idea that someone else's success takes away from your own, which is completely false, really, isn't it? Where do you think that scarcity mentality comes from?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I mean, there's a few arguments, isn't there? Is there a green-eyed monster there because the market's busy and people are doing well? But then your argument there is, well, they need to because they're going to be there for, Waterside, for example, they're there one day. So you want them to be fairly busy because they can't spread it out between Monday and Sunday because they're not there. So it needs to be quite busy. But sometimes that gets overlooked because, God, look how busy they are down there. That's annoying. It's like, well, yeah, but, they'll be closed tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after that. So I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's, there's an element of it that is almost kind of, it feels to me like slightly losing the plot, if I'm honest. And I just don't, it's almost ranting at times. So, yeah, I'm not really sure where the whole thing has come from, because there's always been a few complainers, and they come and go. But this has got particularly bad and by a small group, and it is small. It is small, but it's so severe that I felt we should talk about it.
How many individuals do you think we're talking about?
Well, a handful, less, probably a dozen or less, and bearing in mind some of the posts are going into Stratford upon Avon forum, which has got 25,000 locals in there, and, it probably gets a response from like 10 people. So I don't think, it's an overwhelming. Some of those responses in there are people saying, I love it, I love the market, I don't agree with you at all. So, I think it is just a very small amount of people. But, those small amount of people are literally spending 80% of their life on this, which actually, if they spent that time on their own business, they'd probably be a lot better off, to be quite honest. I barely get a day off currently, and I've even talked about not having a day off in my podcast. So I'm actually being hypocritical myself here, but it's just that time of year and it's Christmas and we've got 4 quiet months coming. So we want to make sure we've got the income coming in to pay for all of our overheads and everything else for the next few months. So we're putting the graft in, and I'm so focused on the business that, I don't have enough time for anything else. So, if I was a bit irritated by something else, I'd just be like, well, I think I can do a lot about it because I've got no time. But I think it's a flawed mindset. I'm so bothered about this competition that I'm going to completely ignore my own business and focus on trying to stop them trading. And actually, it should just be, look, this is the world. The world's full of competition. Business is full of competition. We said earlier, if you don't like competition in business, it's probably best to get a job. Because the reality is it's never going away. Someone will copy what you do. Somebody will open it opposite you in a shop. Greg's opened next to nearly every Firkins baker in the country until they went bust. You tell me whether that was a strategy or not. I don't know. Some might say it was, some might say it wasn't. But whatever you say, if you remember when Firkins was still open, there was always a Greg's about 3 doors down, Bit coincidental for me, but that's business.
I noticed the other day I was filling up at Quinton Station, the Apple Green, and opposite I was just stood there filling up, and I looked out and there's a Domino's there, and there's a Pizza Hut a few doors down, and someone has recently just opened this beautiful store. It's another pizza shop. What's it called? I saved it because I was just like, it's really ballsy. It's a different business model. Obviously, you've got 2 really well known fast food brands that are pretty much all takeaway right next to each other, and then right down the middle is, what was it called? Paradiso Pizzeria, and it's stunning. It's got this huge, beautiful tiled stone pizza oven, and this like everything's floral, and it's really stunning. And I quite like to speak to the people that own it. I think there's a few in Birmingham. I just looked at it and thought that's incredibly ballsy.
Just banged it down the middle. I
just think that's you've got to know that you're going to be successful to be able to do that. And that shows how far away that mentality is from this particular group of retailers. In that this guy's gone, well, there's 2 of the biggest the 2 biggest pizza brands in the country right on this street. Is it going to stop me? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, no. And the reality of it is, it's because he's aware that it kind of doesn't matter, because you know what? Anybody can open next to him, right? As long as they can get the right planning permission, right, for the right grade for him to be able to trade, with hot food out of that premises, there's nothing that can stop anybody opening next door to you selling the same stuff. So, to come along as a group of independents who are just selling the products they've always sold, that haven't opened recently, that have been there for years and years and years, and just say, well, I've got more rights than you because I've got a premises and your premises happens to be a bit further away than here. And it's just utter nonsense. And it is actually, can only be attributed to probably to greed, really. You know, and I think, you know, for a company like ours, where we have the ethos of kind of everybody's inclusive, you know, support each other, help each other. You know, we have an ethos of stronger together because we're a collective. And actually, Stratford could have that ethos. We could all go stronger together. We could all create a marketing strategy that is all, you know,
about Stratford as a whole.
Stratford as a whole. Yeah. We've even done this. You know, you created a video, right, for me, because we felt that we were, although we're a group of businesses, but we felt that because of what we are used by the local authority as a tourist attraction to help drive footfall into that town, and then ultimately to support those retailers. And that's what we're doing, right? We are supporting each other, but we're probably more of a tourist attraction because we're not on 7 days a week than the retailers are. And we're aware of that. And so we set out, if you remember, in 2021 to create a promotional film, right? And I think we should put this out after so people can see it.
Yeah, I'll repost it.
Right.
I'll repost it.
So we created a promotional film for Stratford upon Avon as a whole, including our food court and market.
The food court and market was about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
The whole video, I think it might have been just over a minute. I spent 90% of it going round the by the Shakespeare Theatre, going towards the Big Wheel and all the restaurants and the boat trips and all the other independent businesses. Yeah. Apart from this one.
Yes.
This one featured for about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you paid me to put the video together, so I thought I better put you in somewhere.
Yeah.
But the majority, that wasn't the reason we did it. We did it so that we could highlight Stratford as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I've said this plenty of times, and a rising tide raises all ships. And the more people that you can get into Stratford, full stop, the more footfall you can get and the more families that you can get there spending their money at the weekends, then the better it is for everyone.
It is, and that's the reality. And look, we're not saying that every time there's an event on, it's going to be great for everybody. We understand that there is some people out there that are going to go, look, I'm not better off when the events are on, right? Mm-hmm. And for that, I'm genuinely saddened, right? But I'm also a realist, and I know that's going to happen. But with these events and with the local authority putting them on, and with everybody doing this stuff, you have to have something there that people are attracted to, right? The food, the market, and the entertainment and the other stuff that we put on will end up being competitive with certain people, right? That's just life. But also, there's a huge amount of people there that do benefit from it. And actually, when you're looking at it from a town-wide perspective, you have to know this isn't going to suit everyone. But you know what? It's going to improve it for the majority. And it is the majority. Anybody that says it isn't the majority is just talking total nonsense, because the evidence is there for the majority. But there is going to be a few people saying, no, well, when I'm there, I sell gifts, for example. There's a lot of people on the market that sell that type of stuff, so I don't do as well. And for that, it's a shame, but that's just life, and that is the way things are.
You can make it up in the other 6 days a week that you trade.
This is it, and there's also there's those pigs and troughs in everybody's business. That's the reality of it. And the truth of it is, you have to just roll with it. No one made you open a business doing what you're doing, right? No one made me open a business that between January and April virtually, not virtually, totally hemorrhages money in costs, in salaries, in fixed cost rent for the premises, everything else. We hemorrhage money for 4 months, right? It's not a very nice 4 months for me. It's pretty stressful, because I want to make sure we've earned enough over the 12 months running up to that, or the 8 months running up to that, to be able to sustain those kind of losses. And then when you go in, you might look at it and go, yeah, we're okay. Bit squeaky, to be honest, bit tight. I would have liked to have a bit more than that. But, the way things are, just is what it is. It's not an enjoyable period of time, right? I can't sit here and moan about it. I can't look at all of the takeaway shops in the area and say, this is your fault. This is not, I decided to go into this business.
Yeah.
You decided to open a shop in Stratford upon Avon, right? It's a charter market. The markets have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. Waterside alone has been there for 25 years, right? If you came along and opened a business anytime during that 25 years while it was there, you knew it was there, right? It is absolutely, ridiculous to afterwards go, well, hang on, I've opened a shop now, and this
pesky market.
This pesky market that's been here long before I came along is like really like denting my sales. Well, put it in your business plan. Because looking at competition is part of your business plan, and if you didn't do that, it's really not our fault. And the reality of it is, competition is protected by law, and the reason it's protected by law is because it's really healthy. If you are making money without anybody in the area being a risk to you, you will become complacent. You also become lazy, and you won't do the best job. The customer will not get the best from you. If you're like, I need to stay on my toes here because otherwise, someone's going to come along, going to take business off me. I've got to compete with someone. Well, you need to make sure your pizza shop's the best one out of the three.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're getting the best business, and it keeps you on your toes, and that's why it's protected by law. And the reality of it is, then actually, competition regulation says that if a group of individuals group together to try and restrict the trade of another business, it is called cartel behaviour. Cartel behaviour is a breach of law because it's not right. It's the same as a group of, say, for example, let's say energy companies grouping together and then saying, okay, well, let's fix all the prices at this price so that particular company over there goes bust. Not allowed. You can't do it. It's illegal. So what you have to do is fair and square competition with each other, where basically you're all within your rights to do so. You all set your own pricing so you can decide what you want to sell it for. And then you have to do the best to maintain those costs. If your costs aren't that great, and they're a bit too high for your business, that's because your business plan wasn't good enough, or you've not delivered on what you wanted to do. And that happens. I'm a bankrupt. I know all about it. I flopped it well and truly before, unfortunately. Right. And I learnt from it. But I don't blame anyone else.
I think that's the ideal place to end it. If anyone from Stratford has any comments, or anyone wants to get involved, or anyone wants to come on the podcast that's got some opinions around this subject, please let us know. Send emails to bookings@feestreet.co.uk or to james@bullinghamcreative.com. Let us know. Thanks very much for listening, guys. We'll chat to you next time.
Thanks, James.
Cheers, Ryan.